Before we start, I would like to introduce our group members. Vũ Quỳnh Giao, Ngô Thị Trúc Mai, Phan Thị Thủy, Nguyễn Thị Dũng Viên, and Hồ Thị Thu Vân.
There is a sad truth in today's globalized world. Many workers who are excellent at their job and good at foreign language is the first one who failed to entering global company. Why did this happen? The reason is not their job skill. It's a bad habit in taking. Call it the silver platter mentality. What does this mentality mean? It's a habit of waiting for clear instruction from the bosses, avoiding mistake, believing that staying silent and obedient is always safer than speaking up. They are used to having opportunity subvert to them in a silver platter. Today, global companies are a big multicultural environment. Here, employers are expected to be very confident, proactive, or direct in communication, intuitively silent or being passive with your carry, to supply and avoid being left behind. Workers must go through a process called cultural adjustment to better understand and deal with this emotional journey. Researchers created the use code model of cultural adjustment. According to this model, our feeling and sensation usually go up and down through four clearly stages. The first stage at the top left of the use to, they call it honeymoon. At the beginning, everything feels extremely exciting, full of energy and fresh. We are curious about new culture, excited about new colleges and new appearances, but everything must to end. And after some time, a queue drops sharply to the bottom, leading to the second stage, cultural shock. This stage is usually the most difficult and painful time when different meet. People start to misunderstand others. They also feel lonely, lost, or even become angry because of their habits and values are completely different from new culture. After hitting the bottom of hard top, the crew begins to go up with the third stage, college adjustment. In this stage, we are start complaining and start to understand the new culture, learn how to communicate better, know how to actively fix misunderstandings, set up our agile plan, and step by step change our behavior to fix it. Finally, we reach the top right of the Unicode iteration stage. At this sweet moment, individual can work very comfortably in both cultures. They are become more confident, flexible, and excellent at talking and working with people in different cultures. Therefore, through the models above, we can see that cultural adjustment does not mean you lose your identity or forget your roots culture. In contrast, it means you can learn how to open your mind, connect, work
supervisor. Personally, I realized that many Vietnamese students, including me sometimes, are not always comfortable express personal ideas, especially in formal situations. Sometimes we worry that speaking to may sound rude and disrespectful. However, according to beyond language, in many Western cultures, especially in United States, are considering love as culture, people tend to communications more directly and clearly. They usually say exactly what they think and expect others to do the same. In this culture, expressing personal ideas is usually encouraged, asking questions and sharing ideas during mistake is usually seen as confidence and native participations rather than disrespectful. In workplace, these different can reach misunderstandings. For example, in an international meeting and brainstorming system, Asian employees may stay quiet because they want to listen carefully or avoid interrupting others. But American worker may misunderstanding that listen. They may think the person is not interested in participating or doesn't have ideas to share. People usually intimate communication based on their cultural or background because that misunderstanding can happen even when nobody has bad intentions. Another problem common is asking questions. In many Asian cultures, people sometimes say yes when events are not fully sure or doesn't completely understand. I think this happens because they are afraid of making mistakes or looking unprepared. Honestly, I can replace this feeling myself. Sometimes talking to teacher or people with higher positions, we usually have to ask too many questions because we worry if we create a past impressions. But in many Western workplace environments, asking questions is actually since I am positive things. It's our responsibilities and professionalism. So after some times in international environments, people usually begin to adjust their communication style. Instead of pretending to understand everything, they may start to asking questions like, could you explain that again? Or I will make sure I understand clearly. I think this is very important cultural adjustment because with communication has avoid misunderstanding directly. Could you explain that again? I want to make sure I understand correctly. In my opinion, cultural adjustment doesn't mean closing our identity or completely changing themselves. It simply means learn how to communication more effectively with people from different cultural backgrounds. We don't need to completely change who we are. Instead, we learn to become more flexible, understanding, and open-minded. In the end, I believe good communication, international workplace requires not only language skill but also cultural awareness. When we understand different communication styles, we can work together more effectively and avoid unnecessary misunderstanding. Thank you for listening.
Continuing from our general overview, I will guide you through the most intense areas of cultural clash in the international workplace, the relationship between bosses and employees. So, in the first slide, the cultural clash. In many Asian cultures, like Vietnam or Philippines, a boss is seen as an ultimate authority figure, a senior leader whom we must respect, obey, and maintain a formal distance from. In intercultural communication, this is known as hierarchical culture or high power distance. However, when we enter an international environment, especially Western and American organizations, everything flips. They highly value egalitarianism, which means equality. To them, bosses and employees just have different roles. So, but as human beings, everyone is on the same level. Now, let's go to the second part. The behavioral shift. Because of this fundamental difference, an international employee must undergo a process of cultural adjustment, shifting from hierarchical dependence to active equality. This adjustment requires us to change our daily habits in two major ways. First, we need to break communication barriers and get comfortable interacting with superiors closely and casually. Second, we must move from traditional modesty to self-promotion. Instead of staying quiet and waiting for our hard work to be noticed, we must learn to voice our strengths and achievements confidently. And next, the third slide, critical adjustments. Let's look at specific examples to see how this adjustment happens in reality. First, regarding egalitarianism, you must immediately adjust how you address your boss by using their first name. Instead of saying, "Yes, sir," we say, "Hi, Malcolm." It might feel strange at first, but that is how Western managers feel connected. Second would be open door policy. The formal barrier is removed. You should feel free to walk into the manager's office to discuss ideas or even chat and joke with them during lunch breaks like normal college. Finally, in terms of self-promotion, we need a major mindset shift. In a job interview or performance review, instead of staying quiet out of modesty, an international employee must adjust by confidently presenting their concrete data and achievements in a positive light. And so, in conclusion, adjusting your relationship with your boss doesn't mean losing your respect for them. It just
limited resource with direct economic value that can be wasted on schedules. Hence the famous expressions, time is money. Consequently, absolute punctuality and deadline are sacred. Inviolable rules, newcomers from flexible cultures often experience severe culture shock due to rigidity, frustrated. Example 1. If a meeting is scheduled for 9 a.m., everyone is expected to be ready to work at exactly 9 a.m. To fit into these cultures, the employee must modify their habits. They learn to use the detailed calendars, scheduling their work days, and arrive a few minutes early. Example 2. We can look at Germany or Switzerland, where punctuality is even more extreme than the US, being measured precisely by the minute. In countries in Latin America or the Middle East follow a polyphonic system where time is fluid and relationship oriented. A 10 a.m. meeting might start at
and worse out can sometimes cause culture shock